What if I told you giants still existed? Hard to believe, yes, but true nonetheless. Undisturbed, they keep watch over the landscape, like the Ents of Tolkien's fantasy world, but these a non-fiction variety. Standing proud and resolute, time seems to pass them more slowly than it does for us humans, growing hundreds of feet tall, taller than any other living thing on the planet. What wisdom could these beings pass on to us? After all, a single adult is a few hundred to a few thousand years old. The fall of Rome, ships arriving in the New World, the Industrial Revolution. We've changed so much as humans in a few thousand years, yet they stay the same, watching. There are three things that kill trees. There's bugs, fire, and disease. And this tree is adapted to fight all three of those. It's the tallest tree in the world. There are species up there that only exist in the canopy, and you don't find them anywhere else in the world. The size alone makes you feel humble. And I think anytime humans can make a connection that makes them feel humble, it fascinates us. Today, we're going to discuss the coastal redwoods, the namesake for Redwoods National and State Parks. These trees are the tallest living things on the planet. The tallest currently known as Hyperion, standing at 380 feet at an age of 600 to 800 years, but it's far from the only impressive tree within the park. The national and state parks cover approximately 131,000 acres, of which only 39,000 is considered old growth still. This is also the ancestral lands of the Yurok people amongst other Native American tribes, who revere the trees as their ancestors.
The Roy, the Klamath River. I'm a part of the Yurok tribe. Our home is surrounded by geese, the old-growth redwoods. We've been here as long as they've been here. We respect them because they're living beings of our family. The story that has been handed down from Yurok people talks about the redwoods as guardians. And they watched out for us as a people.
You come to this forest, you feel the calming presence coming from these ancient giant trees who are just saying, it's okay, we survived for hundreds and thousands of years, and so can you.
Often the first question about these trees is, why are they so tall? Gravity still exists, the winds still blow, soils can still become unstable, there's forest fires. It's simple. Teamwork. Possibly the greatest lesson we can learn from redwoods is how to work together for our survival. The redwoods grow extremely densely, and their roots intertwine and hold each other up. They can even pass nutrients from one another in times of distress through the mycelium network. Even when the trees are toppled, creating a hole in the canopy, the stump can often produce many new growing stems that are clones of the mother tree that will subsequently grow to massive heights themselves and fill the void in the canopy. This, in part, is what leads to the redwoods becoming such a dense forest. They're incredibly resilient. The Santa Cruz Redwood Forest was first noted in accounts of the Spanish coastal expedition led by Gaspar de Portola in 1769, occupying San Diego and to Monterey to prevent Russian advances on the west coast, although it seems the Russians were more interested in animal pelts. Roughly 60 years later, the first Americans to see the North Coast Redwoods were those in Jedediah Smith's party in 1828. A pioneer and frontiersman, he is most noted for paving a trail, so to speak, for others to follow more easily to California. As they explored areas of present-day Northern California, they tried to reach the coast through the dense forest. The terrain was so rough and densely forested that it took the party nearly 10 days to travel only about 20 miles, making it due only to the party's camaraderie, the resilience and willingness to work with trappers as well as native peoples to continue on their journey. They realized teamwork was the only way that they were going to make it. Now that the trail westward had been blazed, the westward expansion boomed. Between 1848 and 1855, roughly 300,000 people moved westward in search of gold and land. But with an influx of population comes an influx in the demand for building materials. And what could be better to build with than redwoods? So immense in size, roughly 20 to 30 houses could be built from a single tree. In a time of booming demand, what could be better? But how do you harvest such a tree? That's the question. Crews of a dozen men were needed to fell a single tree after days of toil. It wasn't for the faint of heart, and each man had to rely on the team to even hope to accomplish their task. A single tree can weigh 1.4 million pounds and can crush anything in its path if done incorrectly. The coordination, dedication, and trust these men had in each other cannot be overstated. However, as humans, we tend to overdo it, and the trees were soon in danger of extinction. This had to be a team effort. There was a lot of money tied up in logging the redwoods. In 1923, the Women's Save the Redwood League purchased a grove near Dyerville Flat to protect it, and this is along currently what we know as the Avenue of Giants. The Save the Redwoods League also has purchased and preserved more than 200,000 acres of redwood forest and helped establish more than 66 redwood parks and preserves, protecting most of the old-growth redwoods that remain. The Sierra Club also worked with them for enhanced lobbying with John Muir as an advocate. In 1923, they created Prairie Creek State Park, 1925 Del Norte State Park, 1929 Jedediah Smith State Park, and in 1955 John D. Rockefeller Jr. purchased 10,000 acres that he also donated in Humboldt County. In addition to the state parks and private land held for redwood preservation, in 1968, President Lyndon B. Johnson established the Redwoods National Park, federally protecting an additional 58,000 acres. All told, the park sees 750,000 visitors annually, who all cannot resist but to link their arms and hug a tree. Large trees like the redwoods continue teaching us today. At the Laboratory of Tree Ring Research, Dr. Charlotte Pearson explains how these trees are continuing to inform us of our origins and maybe our future.
Rainfall that might tell us about temperature. We can know that a tree is putting on a ring every year. And the amazing thing is that if we start with today, if you or I, if we went outside and we took a sample from under the bark of any of the trees that we see outside, we would find a ring forming, and it would be this year's ring. So we know the date, and so we know the date of the one before, and the one before, and the one before, and the one before. They were so interested in this, the study of how some of these extreme climate events that we've been seeing, how they affect human societies. Do they affect them? How do they affect them over a long term? How do they affect them over a wide geographic region?
Chances are, even if you haven't been to the Redwoods National and state parks, you've still seen these or heard of these trees. Movies like Jurassic Park, Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, and E.T. have all had parts shot in these ancient forests, due in part to their otherworldly feel. There is no substitute to seeing them, touching them, feeling their wisdom, and when you do, hopefully you'll learn something. Redwoods once seen, leave a mark or create a vision that stays with you always. No one has ever successfully painted or photographed a redwood. The feeling they produce is not transferable. From them comes silence and awe. It's not only their unbelievable stature, nor the color that seems to shift and vary under your eyes. No, they are not like any trees we know. They are ambassadors from another time. John Steinbeck.